Joining me is President Assad's exiled first cousin, Ribal Al-Assad, who founded the Organisation for Democracy and Freedom in Syria, and Lord Malloch-Brown, former Foreign Office Minister who served as Deputy Secretary General at the UN. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. And Ribal, if I can start with you, we're hearing today of balloting taking place over a new constitution. I mean, is that in any way have any potential to even start the healing process in Syria?
No, I think what's going on is a complete farce, because as you know, even under the previous constitution, it forbid, for example, torture, it allowed freedom of press, it allowed people to demonstrate peacefully, but the regime was not even able to respect that. So I'm very doubtful about that they'll be able to respect the new constitution. And again, this constitution that was one-sided, it was drafted by the regime alone, and it's tailor-made for this regime.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate. I mean, one of the things that it said that the president has to be a Muslim. Why does it have to be that the president has to be a Muslim when you have, for example, 15 to 20% Christians in Syria?
President has to be elected. I mean, Lord Malloch-Brown, I mean, a sticking plaster then. I mean, is there any way that you see it that the Assad regime survives and that the situation is even semi-normalised? We're past that point.
Well, we're well past that point. You can't have 7,000 people losing their lives and then a regime sort of allowed to continue as though it was business as usual. No, President Assad has to go. The question is how and when, and how is it done in a way which, both allows as democratic and representative a successor as possible, and second, minimises the violence during this period of transition that Syria is now in. And there at the moment, the signals are not very good. I mean, you've got a very polarized situation with the regime making these sort of half-baked efforts to put some sort of constitutional veneer on its rule, but its opponents, including the outside group of 70 countries that met in Tunisia, also having only kind of half an approach to this, not understanding the nature of the problem they're dealing with and thinking somehow a few arms to rebels or some other sort of thing can turn this. This is a very complicated problem that needs a very comprehensive approach.
Well, I mean, you sound pessimistic. Ribal Al-Assad, are you equally pessimistic?
Yes, I'm extremely...
Fracturing, polarised, civil war looming.
Yes, and I've been warning of that for the past 11 months, that we are at the brink of civil war, and it's going on now. And this might be even more dangerous, bringing a regional war. We have to see what happened yesterday. For example, it was again, it was a disaster what happened in the Tunisia Friends of, regarding Friend of Syria meeting. Yeah. Only one group, I mean, all those countries chose one group. They invited officially only one group, which is the Syrian National Council, which is 80% Islamists. It came out in, one of their members spoke to Reuters last week, and he said, unfortunately, the Syrian National Council is overwhelmingly members of the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamists. I mean, we sent a delegation, we weren't invited, we sent a delegation, and other groups were there, opposition groups were not even allowed in. So how is that helpful? Hillary Clinton last week and President Sarkozy said we have to have a unified opposition, we have to have an all-inclusive, transitional, peaceful change. Well, this is hardly inclusive, what happened yesterday.
Well, feed that into Lord Malloch-Brown's expertise. That's not helpful in terms of the response that the West is thinking about, is it, when you don't have an opposition that is speaking to itself?
Well, look, yeah, I mean, and in the West, in a sense, seems to be betting on, and not intentionally, but has ended up in a place where it's betting on a group which is dominated by Muslim Brotherhood supporters, and secondly, is in part still betting or threatening on arms to the opposition. And these are the two things which both sustain President Assad's position. The threat of violence and civil war, which keeps the minorities around him supporting him, and second, the prospect that maybe this would be a kind of Islamic majority government, which again would threaten the minority rights of other groups. So we're just not getting this right, that we're not doing the politics correctly. And I think perhaps the best news of the weekend is not the Tunis meeting, but that mild boss, Kofi Annan, has been appointed jointly by the UN and the Arab League to sort of try and negotiate a way through this. He's He's negotiated with President Assad on many occasions before. When I worked for him, he knows him well. I think there's a prospect here we may get things on a better track.
So he has his trust, he has his ear. I mean, do you see any hopes through the UN route? Of course, we saw a couple of weeks ago a resolution vetoed by Russia and China.
Honestly, if we don't see a unified opposition, it's going to be very difficult, because this is what happened yesterday is even going to give excuses.
Well, for that to happen, then pressure has to be put on the elements of the opposition
exactly.
that are talking.
This is why we had a lot of, we were very optimistic before that meeting happened. But again, once it happened yesterday, we were like, this is again going to give excuses to Russia and China to support the regime in Syria. It's certainly not going to prize away the people who are around Bashar al-Assad, because those people, those minorities, people in the Ba'ath parties, people who want to move away from Bashar, they're certainly not going to go under the umbrella of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, I think diplomacy's got three kind of immediate priorities. One is to get a united opposition formation of some kind. Second is to reunite the international community, which means finding a way of bringing Russia and China back on side. And third, focusing on two initial things: a ceasefire to stop the killing and violence and de-escalate the conflict. And second, within that, humanitarian arrangements to allow wounded to get out and medicines and supplies to others to get in. And we've got to get that in place and then move to a broader political solution.
Okay, gentlemen, we must end it there. I'm sure I'll see you again over the coming months as this develops. But thank you all very much indeed, Lord Malloch-Brown and Ribal Al-Assad there.